Hey, we're back on Sports Bet Betting Insight today, Tuesday, November 22nd. Jimmy Vaccaro in the deep dive, $150,000 NFL moneyline parlay he'll tell you about. And deep dive will hit all the Thanksgiving games plus the Apple Cup and TCU Texas on Friday. Bad bets, bad beats, bad for the house, or bad for the books rather. Let's start Monday Night Football recap. This wasn't good. Raiders and over money. They were down 7 late, and they come back with some big plays and get the win by 7 in Mexico City.
Oh, yeah, Jamize Olawale is the hero, the point spread hero for Oakland backers and, of course, for over backers as well, as a game that looked to be maybe Texans and under. Ends up Raiders and over. You know, and we can rip Bill O'Brien. We probably will. I'll let you do that, Pauly. But let's start with this. This bad result for the house. Oh, whenever the favorite and over hits on Monday night is never going to be good. And in this situation where there was a ton of Raider money, the Raiders got bet up from 5.5, 6, 6.5. The over got bet up on game day up to 46. So not a good Monday Night Football result for bookmakers, both here in Las Vegas and around the globe.
Yes, 4th and 4, he punts. 4th and 1, he kicks a field goal. They got stuffed 4th and 1. That was a bad job by O'Brien. The Texans should have won that game. And now that gets interesting. Who's going to win that division? Who knows? More on that coming up. Bad beats. Horrible if you had the T-Wolves because they led by 13 going into the fourth quarter. It's the first time since 2004 the Celtics won a game. Went down that much going into the fourth. They had lost 99 in a row. Went down 13 going into the fourth.
Yeah, and of course, not a good result for the house in that game either. There was Boston money. The Celtics bet up from -1 to -2. All of a sudden, Boston's gotten healthy. They've got Al Horford back in the lineup. And the guy who I think is maybe one of the most underrated point spread players, and Jay Crowder, you can really sense the difference for Boston defensively when he's on the floor. Celtics defense was tremendous in the fourth quarter as they rallied back and gave everybody who had Minnesota a tough beat last night.
Yes, and here's some more in the NBA. The Bucks and also the Pistons.
Oh, I mean, the Bucks, let's start with the Bucks. The Bucks got bet up -5.5 to -6.5. They're up 6 with 8 seconds left. They're playing D. They foul. The Magic hit 2 free throws. So what happens? They're down 4. Orlando's going to foul. Jabari Parker, clunk. The Bucks win by 4, and the books avoid a middle on that one. But, I mean, the final 10 seconds of that Piston games was epic. From a point spread perspective. Tough beat if you had Detroit. And it was bad for the books, too. Detroit opened -1 in that game and closed +2.5. So here's a scenario, Pauly. All right, Pistons are down 2, 10 seconds left. Contavious Caldwell-Pope gets fouled. He hits the first. He misses the second. So now the Pistons have to foul instead of playing defense because they're down 1 instead of tied. They foul James Harden. Harden hits the first, but he misses the second, leaves the door open. Rockets lead back up to 2. Drummond gets a rebound and get hacked. Goes to the free throw line. And you know what Andre Drummond's going to do with the game on the line, going to the free throw line? He misses the first, he misses the second. The Pistons are still down 2. All right, they're still covering. So Harden gets fouled. And he misses the first. And now Detroit backers are like, maybe. But he makes the second. The half-court heave comes up short. The Rockets win by 3. I mean, Houston's not going to win many games this year where they don't get to 100.
I know.
The books got something back because the total got steamed up 204 up to 209.5. So even though they lost all the money on the Rockets, they won all of that over money, stayed under by double digits.
Yes, I watched the end of that. That was crazy, missing all the free throws. Houston, they get out of there with the win, though. Bad for the books. Golden State hammers the Pacers.
Oh, they sure did. I mean, the Pacers went all out on Sunday. They got the straight-up win in overtime at OKC without Paul George in the lineup, and they had nothing left in the tank for Monday night's game against the Warriors. And the markets knew it. Golden State bet up from -11.5 to -14.5. They win by 37. And this is a classic example where the folks say, oh, the betting market, the wise guys never play double-digit favorites. Double-digit road favorites never happen. When the spot is right, when the situation is right, the betting markets will most assuredly move towards a double-digit road favorite, as they did with the Warriors last night. Bad for the house.
And one more ton of Mavs money. They almost won in San Antonio, and they were shorthanded.
Yeah, they've been shorthanded all year. Dallas from +17 at the opener down to +13.5. They still have no Dirk, obviously, but they got good production out of the backcourt. Harrison Barnes, Wesley Matthews, Seth Curry all go for 20+. Tight game throughout. The Spurs win by only 5. not a good result for the house with all of that wise guy Dallas money.
All right, up next, big game breakdown. We'll hit the NFL games on Thanksgiving, and we'll get to 2 college games on Friday, plus Jimmy Vaccaro on the deep dive on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy, Betting Insight today. Time for a big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. 9:30 in the morning Pacific, Thanksgiving Day, the Vikings and the Lions. Huge game for first place in the North. Both teams 6-4. Lions 2.5, 43 the total. They win this game. They have a stranglehold on the division because it would essentially be a 2-game lead because that's a sweep over the Vikings. They won 22-16 in Minnesota 3 weeks ago. Dead even game. Both teams averaged 5 yards per play. Bad clock management by the Vikings at the end. And Stafford made a long throw to set Prater up from 58 to send it to overtime. They went right down the field with a walk-off win. Both teams, Teddy, can't run the ball.
No, not even a little bit. I mean, when you look at the numbers so far this season, the Lions averaging less than 80 yards per game. That's number 30 in the NFL. The Vikings only 70 yards per game. Dead last in the NFL. Yards per rush, Detroit at 28. And, of course, we've been talking about this all year on SportsBet, how Minnesota on pace for a historically low yards per rush average for the entire season. That 2.7 you're looking at right now on the graphic makes it very clear that's more than a half yard lower than the lowest team in the NFL in the last 5 years to run the football. So, I mean, neither team got to 4 yards per carry in the first meeting to slow down the other team's pass rush. And that may be the biggest issue here. You have Minnesota in revenge for a game they probably should have won. You know, it was the bad clock management at the end. Zimmer called the timeout a little bit too early near the goal line. The Lions, of course, got the opening kick in overtime, drove 87 yards for the touchdown to win the game. It's certainly a loss Minnesota's going to remember. But when you talk about the difference between these two, we have two teams that can't run the football. There is a huge difference between these two teams in terms of their pass rush. I mean, the Vikings got all over Carson Palmer on Sunday. 4 Minnesota pass rushers racked up 5 or more pressures. 9 from Everson Griffin, 3 hits, 6 hurries. 9 from Danielle Hunter, 2 sacks, 2 hits, 5 hurries. The Vikings pressured Carson Palmer on 27 of his 43 dropbacks, and, you know, they were the unit to wrap up the victory at the end of the game. It's certainly a problematic matchup for that Detroit offensive line.
Yes, Stafford counters this by getting the ball out early, 23 of 36 for 219 at Minnesota, only sacked once. You remember those Raider teams with Rich Gannon. Well, that's kind of what they're doing in Detroit, where they know they can't run, so they're using the running game by throwing short passes. And hell of a matchup, and I lean under in this one.
Yeah, I mean, look, Stafford's passer rating for the season is 101.2. You know, far above his career 87.1. It kind of mirrors the second half of last season under Jim Bob Cooter. We said, this guy's gotten it together. And, you know, when you look at the tweet right here from ESPN Stats and Info. Most game-winning drives in the fourth quarter overtime in 2015. Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Eli Manning. That's not a bad list to be on, and not a bad list to be at the top of. Stafford had been very clutch. He was as clutch as it gets in the first meeting between these two teams. I know this much. I'm not laying points with Detroit, with Minnesota, off the momentum of last week's win and a little bit of revenge from a game they probably should have won earlier in the season.
Yeah, well said there. Game number 2, liveoutsportsbookreview.com. Also a great game. The Redskins and the Cowboys. Dallas 750 the total. Shame on the NFL for putting out this schedule. What a horrible spot for the Redskins. They're off a Sunday night game. Now they got to play Thursday afternoon on the road.
TV is king. But that's a big part of the reason why this line is as high as it is a scheduling spot here for the Redskins. As you mentioned, not even the normal rest on Sunday night. They had to play Sunday night and the very short week as they travel to face the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. And hey, we better get used to this, buddy. Zeke and Dak on Thanksgiving Day. That duo might be in Dallas uniforms playing on Thanksgiving for a long, long time. But, you know, here's a Redskin team, and I talked about the spot. Even with the spot, Washington's still getting no love from the betting markets. Remember, this team won the division. They made the playoffs last year. They lost their first 2 games this season. They're 6-1-1 since. The only loss coming by a field goal. And yet, still a big dog here, and the offense has earned the wins. That Kirk Cousins has what it takes to succeed in the NFL 2016 in terms of style to create that offensive balance. He's spreading the ball around. Look at the graphic. You got Reed, Garcon, Crowder, Jackson, Thompson, all 30-plus catches, all downfield weapons, and maybe most importantly, we talk about this Dallas offense, Pauly. What about the Redskins? Number 2 in the NFL in yards per play at 6.4. Dallas is number 3 at 6.2, but the markets and perhaps the general public doesn't necessarily perceive this Washington offense as being the moral equivalent or perhaps even a notch or two better than that of the Cowboys.
It's going to be a long day if they can't stop the run, and that's been the case the whole season. They're giving up 4.6 yards per carry, tied for Cleveland, 30th in the league. And if you can't slow down the Cowboys' rushing attack, it's going to be a long day. And each week goes by, Prescott becomes more comfortable, more command of the offense. The first meeting, which was a long time ago, Redskins led by 3 in the fourth quarter. First and goal at the Dallas 6. That was the horrible interception he threw. And he actually had some problems in the locker room. Since then, as you talked about, everything's been great. And the Cowboys took it right down the field for the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, the Redskins actually got down to the Cowboys' 36-yard line in the waning second. They had a false start penalty, 10-second runoff. That doomed their chances. But I want to go back to this concept about the Dallas Cowboys and what they're doing in terms of down and distance, because they're doing down and distance better than anyone. Dallas has had 665 offensive snaps this season. Their defense only had 600. So through 10 games, that's an average of 6.5 more offensive snaps than defensive snaps. That's roughly 1 full possession per game that the Cowboys offense has been able to generate, thanks to their ability to run the football. And as you mentioned, the Redskins can't stop the run, and they haven't been able to. Tied with Cleveland. You don't want to be tied with Cleveland in any category this year. Number 30 in the NFL, stopping the run. I don't know that Washington's going to stop Dallas on the ground, but I continue to be impressed with the extent of that Redskins passing game. First lean here has me looking up and over the total.
All right, yes. And the night game, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Steelers hit the road to take on the Colts. CG Technology here in Vegas hung a line. Steelers 6-51. Luck's in the concussion protocol. It looks like it's going to be Scott Tolzien getting the start. And based on the short turnaround, Teddy, with what happened Monday, and now the game's Thursday night, I can't see Luck being cleared and being able to go.
No, I mean, everyone talks about the concussion protocol. You know what we did here on SportsBit? We did some work on the concussion protocol, so you guys know what the hell they're talking about when they say he's in concussion protocol. Okay, step 1, rest and recovery. The patient is prescribed rest, limiting or avoiding activities such as electronic, social media, and team meetings until his symptoms and neurologic examination return to their baseline status. Step 2, light aerobic exercise. This is everything Andrew Luck's got to do between now and Thursday to get cleared for the game. Step 2, light aerobic exercise. The player patient will participate in increased cardiovascular exercise under the direction of the team medical staff, and the exercise may be gradually increased as long as the player remains at a baseline while performing the activity. Baseline level, blah, blah, blah. Step 3, continued aerobic exercise and introduction of strength training. Step 4, football-specific activities. Step 5, full football activity / clearance. So he's got to get through each of the first 4 steps before he can participate in the next game or practice. I don't think he's going to get through it by Thursday. I really don't, Pauly. And obviously, the key player for the Indianapolis Colts franchise long-term should not be forced into action when his head is not right.
Tolzien, 2 starts in 2013. He's only thrown 1 pass since then. My God, and he really struggled in Green Bay when he got in there. For the Steelers, skill position players did well in lousy conditions in Cleveland, but maybe Tomlin and Haley, why'd they use Bell so much in a game they had in hand, plus with the short turnaround?
I don't know why they use Bell so much. It really felt like a mismanagement. I mean, it's a smart thing to do. You run a power back in bad weather. Bell, 28 carries for 146 yards on the ground, 8 for 55 receiving. But it also might be a pretty dumb thing to do. Overwork your key running back with a big lead and a short practice week ahead. I wonder if Le'Veon Bell is going to be a step slow here. But the Steelers' passing game could get an edge. It's not just Luck who's in concussion protocol for the Indianapolis Colts. Also, their safety, Clayton Geathers, in protocol, and Vontae Davis, their best cornerback, he was wearing a walking boot at practice on Monday. So, Indy, not just the QB concerns, they've also got concerns in their secondary, and that's not what you want against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Worth noting, that's 6-51. That's the only line I've seen on this game yet. We're probably not going to see anything posted at most sportsbooks until Wednesday at the earliest.
Yes, very good. To college now. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Friday afternoon, Fox Sports 1, TCU in Texas. Texas 1.5. The Texas AD came out about Charlie Strong, the situation on Sunday, when there were numerous reports he was fired. Said, quote, there are a number of rumors out there about the status of Coach Strong. I've said it all along. We will evaluate the body of work after the regular season. We have a game to get ready for against TCU on Friday. I hope our fans will come out and support our team. We'll discuss where things stand after that, end quote. Players talked about possibly boycotting if Strong was fired, and they backed off that, so Buechele came out and said, yeah, we'll play. But this is, everyone knows he's gone. It was sealed when they lost to Kansas for the first time since 1938. Just fire the guy. Why do you got to wait till after the game on Friday? This is a horrible situation all the way around.
That's a good situation for us, my friend. Why don't they fire him? Now we get one game where we know that Texas is coming all out to play. This is a great scenario for us. I don't want Charlie Strong to get fired before this week. I don't want the players down. I want the players to go in and go all in for their man, because you look at these tweets, and there were hundreds. I mean, it felt like there were hundreds of them that I was reading. I posted, we put up 3 of them. Puna Ford, letting this man go is the equivalent to losing a father. He has done wonders for all. These are by quotes from the players, by the way, for all the players in this team, and we want him to continue that. Timbo Cole, everyone who seems to have an opinion on my coach aren't the ones directly affected. Hashtag Strong. Topi Amati, the main reason we came to UT was because of Coach Strong's plan for us to succeed and become a better man. Now y'all take him away. There's a lot of love on that sideline for Charlie Strong. And from all indications, Texas, yeah, it may not be the easiest spot. I think they're going to come to play this week. That's what I'm sensing from the Longhorns. I don't think they lay down and they come. And, it may not be what the administration wants. The administration probably wants a loss. It makes the job easier in firing Charlie Strong. And they don't have to worry about going to any bowl games and that whole scenario. But for the coaching staff, for the players, they want TCU, and frankly, I think they're a notch or two better than TCU.
Yeah, total's 59, by the way. Strong maybe had a better season than Gary Patterson. I mean, they got beat 31-6 at home by Oklahoma State, his worst ever home loss in 13 seasons. Patterson, quote, it's been a long time since we got our butts kicked at home. As soon as you start tolerating what happened today, you need to get into a different profession. As a coach, you put a lot into it. What you've got to realize is that you're not going to change unless you look at yourself in the mirror and say, that didn't work, so what's your next answer? Well, still, both teams are alive for a bowl game, as they both have come into this game with 5 wins.
Sure, and I mean the markets are showing that, and TCU certainly. I mean, TCU's every bit as bad as Texas this season, but I'm not going to get into a racial issue. Charlie Strong's under a lot more heat than Gary Patterson, and probably deservedly so. Patterson's done a hell of a job at TCU. Not this year, he hasn't. Not necessarily. Well, last year he did for a long time too, but. The Horned Frogs aren't very good. From a talent perspective, Texas has more talent. If Texas comes to play, they'll win this game by margin. We'll get back to this game when it comes to play.
All right, one more. The Apple Cup, Friday on Fox, 12:30 Pacific. Washington is 6 in Pullman, 64 the total. Biggest Apple Cup ever. The winner of this game goes to the Pac-12 championship game. Washington definitely still alive. If they can win out and then get in the playoff, Mike Leach pulls the upset in the first Apple Cup. 31-28 is a 14-point dog in 2012, then lost by 10 head-to-head against Peterson, laying 3.5, won 31-13, and then what happened? Just a total rout last year. And
Washington was the chalk in 2014.
Yes.
Washington minus 3.5, Washington minus 7.5. So it's been Chris Peterson pretty much dominating those first 2 meetings head-to-heads against Mike Leach. Winning by 18 as 3.5 point chalk, winning by 35 as 7.5 point chalk. Leach coaches the passing game. Peterson coaches the whole team. But when you look at Washington State for the season, they're not just a passing team. And that's the image that we have about Washington State. We've had it for years. Not this year. They have a good running game. They have a good defense. That's why they are where they are. But forget about all the other stuff. This game going to be fun to watch and maybe fun to bet on with one of the best quarterback battles of the season, Pauly. You know what we got with Browning and Falk, too. Dynamite QB.
Look at these numbers. Browning, 2,800 yards, 37 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, passer rating of 180. Falk, 3,900 yards, 36 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, passer rating of 153. Not many regular season matchups head-to-head where the quarterbacks have 73 touchdown passes. Teddy, what do you think of the total?
I'll tell you what. The total, at first glance, you're like, this is short, given the nature of these two QBs. And then you start to look at the defensive numbers. I mean, Washington State defense, Washington's defense has been dynamite all year. Really has. And it's an elite level defense, strong secondary, and a pass rush to go along with it, which is probably a bugaboo for the Cougs in that regard. They'd rather have a team that can stop the run better than they can stop the pass. That's not the Washington Huskies. Their pass defense is tremendous. But when you start talking about two QBs that are going to be chucking the ball all over the field, let's check that weather. Still a little bit early to look at the Friday weather forecast, but be aware this time of year in Seattle, there's often conditions that you want to be aware of before getting involved with any wager on the total.
At liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Long show today, long show tomorrow. Off on Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving. Up next, Jimmy Vaccaro with the deep dive. $150,000 NFL moneyline parlay we'll talk about. He'll run down how the books did Saturday and Sunday, plus the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Time for 5 great minutes with Jimmy Vaccaro. If you're ever in Las Vegas, stop in and see him at the South Point and follow him on Twitter. Over 40 years as a bookmaker. All right, let's start with what happened yesterday. And Jimmy, there were 5 missed extra points in 2013. We had a record 12 on Sunday. What happened?
Well, what happened, obviously, it's just getting a little into the kickers' heads that moving the obviously the attempt back just a short distance is changing a whole lot of things. So these kids are probably going to have to obviously, earn their money. I was baffled, too, by the degree of difficulty, meaning some of them really missed them. And it's still a 32-yard field goal. We understand that. But, it changed the whole realm of, maybe a little bit with the number 3 that, with these extra points, it might change the outcome of the game. And naturally, would I be concerned personally? No, I think it's good for the game. Anything that's automatic, I'm always against. So I like the idea of anything can happen. And I think it won't get much better because it's like everything else. If it stays bad for a while, and these guys know that their job might be on the line every time they go out on the field now, makes a little bit difference. But I truly thought it was I thought it was kind of unique missing all those extra points.
Yeah, I'm with you. It wasn't a competitive play. I'll agree with Peter King when they were making 99% every year. And anything that makes these coaches decide to go for 2 more, I'm all for.
Yeah, me too. It's a little different, the dynamic, and this is probably the one good thing that the NFL has done in the past 20 years when they instituted this rule. I mean, at the beginning, it's like, okay, just another rule, is it going to make that much difference? There's not a living human that follows this racket like we do who would have thought would have been in a place where they're missing 10 and 11 extra points in the course of a game. But, what can I tell you? Anything that's changed and anything that's more exciting, I'm all for. Although it doesn't need that much more excitement because the sport is just incredible and the audience is growing and growing and growing.
Well, it came down to maybe the final play, final possession in some of these games. Detroit kicks a field goal with 20 seconds to cover. Dallas kicks a field goal with a minute left to cover. How did Sunday go?
Well, it's like I've been saying for years, and I'm surely not the genius in this racket because there's been a lot before me and there'll be a lot coming after me. But, what I've said for the past 15 or 20 years, although it doesn't hold up 100% each year, there is a part that I've been right on. 10% of the teams in the league will achieve more than they're supposed to. 10% under will obviously get worse than we thought they were. But the 80% in the middle is just a field goal apart. And that's why the parity is showing, although there are still places and ways to obviously you can put up a lot of money. I'm heading towards the new way of betting, as we always talk about. Here's where we had one customer this weekend, my friend. Naturally, the two go-against teams have been, bet against the 49ers and naturally bet against the helpless Cleveland Browns. About $150,000 two-team money line parlay. Even with the Steelers playing horrendous, They got there relatively easy, and maybe for a little bit with no Gronkowski, the guy was sweating a little bit, but we are getting more and more and more of these bets. Now, the $150,000 moneyline parlay paid him $68,000. Naturally, he won the bet, but he just stood there and watched the game and basically sat in the front row of the sportsbook and watched the entire game. But it's a new dynamic, and everything it's throwing into it is making this stuff more exciting, and I'm all for it, buddy.
Was there a bad result for you other than that?
Yeah, it was a bad day on Sunday. It was a very good day on Saturday, a bad day on Sunday, only because if you go down the list, Pauly, I think there's only 2, possibly 3 ways if you lost. You couldn't lose on a teaser no matter which side you bet. And like everything else, and surely no defending the books because the players, we got much the best of it, but they're honing in on these teams. It's an automatic with the Browns. It's an automatic against the 49ers. So you're leading 2-0 going into the third inning if you're at the sports book. We got carried out on parlays, and we really got carried out on the teaser bets. Naturally, even the Packers didn't draw what I thought they would draw.
Or why was Saturday so good?
Saturday was so good because it wasn't like 2 or 3 games that you needed for a whole bunch of money. It just was a good split, and it was a good handle. When you juice out and you're looking, you're saying, hell, you can win $17,000 on the straight bets with this game, but you can only lose $13,000 because you're getting great two-way action. So when you get as we call it, an earn in the games like this, all you got to do is right down the middle. And if you write a lot of business, you're going to have a very, very good day. Not one game made the day, or not one game carried you out for the day. The only thing that was maybe the late games are getting more attention. People are staying longer, and when they stay longer, naturally they love to bet the favorite. So if it's favorite show on Saturday night late, it's usually not that well for the books. But I'll take the Saturday right now for the next 20 years. The Sunday you can have it for your own.
You're going to be packed this week. There's 3 good games on Thanksgiving in the NFL. You got the Apple Cup Friday. You got Ohio State, Michigan Saturday. It's a great week of football.
You know how we chirped? You just hit it right. We were chirping in July and August saying this is the greatest opening weekend of college football we've seen in quite a while. This may top that starting from Thursday going through Saturday. Brent Musburger was here. He stopped by and he was telling us about what's going on, and it's really nice to hear from an insider talking about he's gonna do the Egg Bowl this Saturday, and then naturally he's doing the holiday, or what do we call it here, the Las Vegas Bowl. Then he does the Sugar Bowl. So he gets excited. After 50 years, he said, it's still an exciting thing to do. So as you can see, it's touching everybody. What a wonderful way to get into the last week of college season. Just incredible.
How was the handle for Ward Kovalev? And that was a controversial decision.
Yeah, for us, again, we're not a big jump. We blew like 23,000 to the fight. We don't take huge limits, nor do a lot of people ask for big limits down there because obviously, we're still on the Saturday night. We're still a local joint, but we got some, good $1,000, $2,000 bets. We opened the fight 35. We closed at 75 or 80, and did not see the fight, did not pay for it. But from what I understand, some of the judges didn't see the fight either.
No. There was a lot of controversy with that one. Most people had Kovalev. The guy for ESPN gave Kovalev the first 6 rounds, and he ends up losing. So you're right about that. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for 5 great minutes. Thanks for coming on.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts and shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
All right, thanks to Jimmy Vaccaro. He runs it down like only he can every Tuesday on the Deep Dive. On tomorrow's show, Michigan, Ohio State preview, Auburn, Alabama, the Panthers and the Raiders, and a big Sunday night game, Chiefs and the Broncos. You mentioned it earlier. Back to the play of the day, money time. Back to TCU and Texas. What are we doing, Teddy?
Let's go with game number 128, the Texas Longhorns. -1.5 now. I think this line's going higher. So I would bet it sooner rather than later. The leading indicator books are already pointing in that direction. Look, Donta Foreman hasn't gotten much Heisman Trophy love. This kid's got a shot of reaching 2,000 yards this week. He got 15 TDs already. That's exactly the kind of guy you want to wear down a tired, bad defense. Foreman's got 1,863 yards going in. I say he gets to 2,000 here. Take the Texas Longhorns minus the points. That's our play of the day.
Yes, very good. How about that? 5 games rapid fire. We'll do 5 more coming up tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.